What I mean is, do you think she'd go behind your back, try to hamstring you?
That's it. Step aside, Mert. This f***er's having himself an accident.
You don't push him off the roof. Because if you do trust her, there's no reason you can't keep that 35,000.
It starts with a banker, a murder rap, and the slowest, most satisfying prison break ever filmed. But The Shawshank Redemption isn't just another prison break story. It was cinematic hope. From a modest 1994 release, it grew into one of the most rewatched movies on cable. Now everyone knows the big moments. The tunnel, the rain, the oak tree. But the hidden made the movie iconic. Like how Morgan Freeman wasn't even supposed to play, or how the river of shit smelled worse than it looked. These are 13 details about The Shawshank Redemption you probably missed. First, did you know that red had to be red? 1. Red wasn't supposed to be Morgan Freeman. In Stephen King's original story, Red was an Irishman with red hair, hence the name. Actors like Paul Newman, Clint Eastwood, and others were considered. But when Morgan Freeman auditioned, the producer Liz Glotzer felt he had found the soul of the movie. The accent, the calm authority, the way his voice wrapped around every line, he was Red. So Liz and Darabont, the writer and director, agreed on Morgan. And just like that, the character is changed forever. The script did wink at the original novella by keeping the famous, "Maybe it's 'cause I'm Irish" line. But casting wasn't the only surprise. Sometimes even the crew didn't know what was coming because the birds were in charge. 2. The birds almost stopped the show. Number 2. Remember Brooks and his pet crow? Cued on screen, but behind the scenes, that bird caused chaos. During the prison cafeteria scene, the crow wouldn't squawk on cue. The crew tried everything, clapping, whistling, waiting for hours. It refused. Then, mid-take, it finally let out a loud caw right as the cameras rolled, and they kept it. That one tiny bird held up production like a diva. But in the final cut, it's perfect. A living reminder that sometimes the best moments come by accident. And accidents weren't the only thing shaping Shawshank. Even rules did. 3. The dead maggot. Number 3. In the scene where Brooks feeds his bird, the maggot he tosses wasn't fake. The crew actually used a real one, fresh from a bait shop, but the animal rights reps insisted the maggot couldn't be killed for the scene. So production waited until one naturally expired before rolling. That tiny moment, mere seconds on screen, came from hours of negotiations. It shows the weird lengths filmmakers go for authenticity, even if it means patiently waiting for a bug to die. And speaking of patience, a few moments tested it like this next scene. 4th, the 9-hour throw. Number 4. That quiet scene where Red throws the baseball to Haywood and talks with Andy took 9 hours to film. It was filmed for 9 straight hours. Morgan Freeman threw the ball every time the camera rolled. He just kept tossing, catching, and smoking between takes. The next day, he showed up on set with his arm in a sling. But the baseball wasn't the only thing carrying weight in this film. 5. The prison was real. Number 5. Shawshank wasn't built on a Hollywood backlot. They filmed inside the abandoned Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield, a place that closed just 3 years earlier over inhumane conditions. Its Gothic walls held real echoes of violence and survival. Crew members claimed the place felt heavy, like the walls remembered. And that's not all. Many extras were former inmates or staff, swapping stories between takes. Even Andy's rock hammer came from the prison's hobby shop, actually crafted by real prisoners for the film. Darabont loved the irony, a tool of freedom born from captivity. Every tap of that hammer carried the weight of the real prison where Shawshank's story, and its ghosts, lived and breathed. Andy's state of mind was altered, but there was still a tunnel to escape. 6. The tunnel trick. Number 6. Remember the tunnel Andy crawls through? It wasn't computer-generated imagery, CGI. It looks endless, but it wasn't. Cinematographer Roger Deakins lit the scene with a small 12-volt peanut bulb tucked into Andy's flashlight. Then he painted concentric rings on a card at the end of the tunnel, only about 10 feet long, to create the optical illusion of infinite depth. As Andy crawls deeper, the light falls off, merging practical lighting and artful design. You feel the miles he traveled. It's a tiny trick that turns a crawl into a journey. But if you think that was rough, wait till you hear how Andy's escape got messier. 7. The poop scene was real? Almost. Number 7. Movie magic can be gross. The sewage in Andy's crawl was not real waste. The crew mixed chocolate syrup, water, and sawdust to make thick sludge that filmed well under lights. But when heated by the lamps, it smelled like the real thing. The stench stuck to Tim Robbins' clothes and hair between takes. The pipe set was rinsed constantly, but the stink lingered. Tim Robbins still calls it the worst-smelling set piece of his career. When Andy burst into the cold rain, that relief was real. Robbins had truly earned it in that syrupy tunnel, inch by inch, breathing through his mouth and trying not to gag. Crew members joked that Robbins deserved an Oscar just for keeping his face calm in that final, iconic shot. And yet, Robbins himself pushed for something even crazier off-camera. 8. Tim's voluntary confinement. To feel Andy's time in the hole, Tim Robbins asked to be locked alone in a cell. No crew, no watch, just darkness and the echo of his own breath. He wanted to understand Andy's mental unraveling after the hole. He stayed long enough for minutes to stretch like hours. The next morning, Robbins described hearing his own heartbeat like a drum. He said the silence made his thoughts feel loud, and the walls felt closer than they looked. That experience bled into the scenes after Solitary. His eyes look older, his voice is softer. He carried the weight of that night in every quiet glance. It changed how Andy moves because Robbins didn't have to act lonely. He was lonely. He was living with the walls closing in. Tim wasn't the only one who went the extra mile. Morgan's vocal cords did too. 9. The voiceovers nearly didn't happen. Number 9. Morgan Freeman's voiceovers feel like Shawshank's heartbeat, right? Turns out they were a last-minute rescue. He first recorded full narration in an Iowa studio before shooting started, so actors could play into it. When Darabont added the early cuts to it, the studio panicked. An audible hiss tainted the track, and the sound team couldn't fix it. Freeman then recorded it again in a rented Ohio recording booth, smoking cigarettes between lines. It took 3 weeks. The mix? Accidentally done on an ordinary speaker, giving it that warm, almost crackling intimacy. Did you know that there were 2 Freemans in the movie? 10. Alonzo Freeman cameo. Number 10. The final hearing, where Red is released, is the most famous, and Freeman himself called the final hearing his best ever piece of acting. But Morgan wasn't the only Freeman who enjoyed that moment. Young Red in the parole picture is played by Alonzo Freeman, Morgan's son. Alfonso has a cameo in the film when Andy and other newbies first arrive in Shawshank. He's one of the inmates shouting, "Fresh fish! Fresh fish!" And he was the man in the mugshot photo in Red's dream. A family moment a lot of people never catch. The details in Shawshank were so important, the director literally put himself in the picture. 11th. Darabont's hands and feet. Number 11. Frank Darabont literally left fingerprints all over the film. In several close-ups of Andy's limbs, it's all Darabont. When you see Andy flipping through the ledger or carving his name, it was the director. He didn't trust anyone else with those close-ups, wanting every movement to be precise. Even the famous footsteps at the bank? Darabont again. He called them his Hitchcock moments, leaving tiny fingerprints all over his own movie. But his inspiration came from a very different kind of film. 12th. A Little Goodfellas DNA. Number 12. Shawshank's rhythm and long tracking shots were directly inspired by Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas. Darabont studied its narration, music cues, and slow burn storytelling before shooting. He even admitted that Red's calm voiceovers were his homage to Henry Hill, narrating his gangster life. It's why Shawshank feels like a prison epic, but moves like a crime saga. Elegant, patient, inevitable. And that elegance reached far beyond America's borders. 13. From box office flop to global icon. Here's our final detail, and it's a strange one. Shawshank flopped in U.S. theaters, barely made its budget back. But then came VHS rentals, TV reruns, and word of mouth turned it into the most rented movie of 1995. In prisons worldwide, inmates screened it like gospel. In Asia, Europe, Africa, audiences claimed it as their own story of hope. By the late 2000s, it topped IMDb's greatest films list and became Hollywood's ultimate underdog story, just like Andy himself. Because sometimes freedom takes time to find its audience. Now when you hear hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, you feel something in your chest. It's not a heart attack, it's the Shawshank Redemption pulling your heartstrings. Got a favorite Shawshank detail we missed? Drop it in the comments, let's see how deep this tunnel goes. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Until next time, goodbye.